I'm Dr. Riz Gonzalez, the Philippine Pediatric Society Fellow and the Chair of the Philippine Pediatric Society Tobacco Control Advocacy Group since 2017. I am actually a tobacco control advocate by heart since I was a kid because I have a father who's a chronic smoker. So I saw in him his battle on quitting and yet going back to the habit. And then seeing a lot of our kids here in Santa Rosa and nearby towns being hooked to tobacco and actually on vape. So when I was a chapter president, that was actually part of my advocacy and that was brought to the national level. So that's why I have this position. As a health professional, a pediatrician that is, tobacco or smoking is a pediatric disease and so is vaping. If you're going to see the statistics, 80% or almost 90% of smokers start this bad habit before the age of 18 years old. And we're seeing that trend also in vaping. And what is sad is that when they are hooked to this bad habit, it rewires and forms their brain to really be hooked onto this tobacco, and quitting is so hard. So what inspires me? It's my father whom I have seen his struggle and suffering till the time of his death. And I find that no one, if we can do something since the start of his adolescent, that you should not engage yourself in this bad habit because everything in your life will be affected. Your health, your job, even your family, and even in your community. And what inspires me really is seeing my kids who doesn't really want to go near their lolo because of the smell of tobacco. And then their experience whenever they see their lolo suffering also on the harms when my father is having an attack of COPD. And you see how irritable he is if he doesn't have this heat of smoking, and everyone in the family cannot control him. So you see, I see this tobacco monster, the nicotine monster that has really ravaged his life until his death last 2021. This tobacco smoke, which is produced by combustion out of burning the cigarette stick, actually emits 7,000 chemicals and 70 carcinogens, and that's a lot. Oh, it goes inside the body through the lungs, and then everything goes around the body from head to foot. So lahat mula sa utak, sa mata, sa bibig, sa ilong, sa heart, even in the blood vessels. You can see the effect of smoking mainly in the lungs because of the respiratory problem, their vulnerability to infection, that is TB, which is actually number one in the country, and then the damages of the tar and the low immune system, infectious and non-communicable diseases really creates havoc in the lungs of a person. You don't feel it when you're young, but when you reach the age of mid-adulthood to late adulthood, that's where the COPD sets in. And it's really a big problem. It's like a fish breathing through an aquarium without an oxygen. Now, that 7,000 chemicals, especially in the blood vessels, in the feet, in the kidneys, it creates vasoconstriction and damage, the endothelial dysfunction. That's why you have the Berger's disease. Kaya we also have the kidney problem because of the microcirculation. And even in the skin, the premature wrinkling, the premature maturation. So it's like burning yourself to death when you are smoking. Now, the secondhand smoke carries the same chemicals and carcinogens also. So it's not just the kid, it's not just the user, but also the kids. And I have a first-hand experience on that because being a child of a chronic smoker, all of us staying in one house have all the asthma symptoms. We don't have a family history of asthma, and even up to now, I'm using inhaler because of that secondhand smoke exposure. Even my siblings who are now in the United States, they have asthma. Out of that exposure, they have that reactive airways disease. Now, unfortunately, kids who are exposed to secondhand smoke, the nicotine in itself primes the brain receptor. So they might be also smokers in the long run. But it didn't happen to us because we saw the horrors that has happened to our father and even around in the community. So both the first hand and the second hand smoke are equally dangerous because they get the same amount of chemicals, and the damage that is happening actually is the same as that of the first hand smoker. This pandemic should have taught us on having a very good health status, and smoking is one of those. I call it the health monsters. Number one, the smoke and even the aerosol of vaping are actually vehicles of viruses, and COVID is one. You produce those clouds, the hand to mouth habit of putting your fingers in nearest to your nose and to your mouth is actually one sure way of getting the virus, especially the COVID. So, number two, so that's the hand to mouth habit. Number two is the state of your lungs, your airway. It should protect you, but what do? You put in your smoke, you put in the aerosol. So that dampens your immune system. So you lessen the immune response. And there's this study in the Stanford in August 2020. It has been published that the smokers and the vapors itself has 5 times the risk of getting COVID infection. Much more so if you're a dual user, it makes the risk about 7 times more. So having a good health status, especially in your lungs, keeps you away from having the dreaded complication of what's that, respiratory failure and even death. Okay. When we did a nationwide awareness campaign in July 2017, that's in preparation for the EO 26, no smoking in public places, 100 meters away from the schools. That was very good. And you know what? The resounding question of the kids: what is the government doing to protect us children? So they're aware of the hazards and harms of smoking. So that is a very nice question. Number one, we have to really implement also the EO 126, that's actually restriction of vaping in public places. But you see how rampant it is in all over, especially with the advent of the disposable vapes. We have laws, but it is not reinforced. We have been fighting to raise the age of access of even cigarettes and that of vape to 21 years old. It could have been a success in January 2020 when it was enacted as RA 11467, the age of access of vaping to 21, restriction of flavors, no tobacco advertising and promotion. And we were pushing also on how to restrict the online sales because our children are now really in the internet. So quite impossible because even asking for the age, children can always deceive and place, oh, I am more than 18 or I am more than 21. They are more technologically advanced and capable to do that than us. So we have to put our laws in place. Unfortunately, that RA 11900 putting the DTI, but I can see effort in restricting the illegal vapes around. So we have to create awareness. We have to implement our laws. And also the parents itself, the titos, the lolas, should really be a good example by quitting the habit of smoking and vaping. That's it. All these good things should start from the home and then teach these kids on the laws, and our government officials should really have this force, the heart, and the dedication to implement the laws for the protection mainly of the young because they are the target of the industry. Quit. If you're a smoker, please quit. There is the DOH quit line for 18 years old and above. You just have to be patient and follow the schedule. For the young, do not try. We have introduced the nicotine monster, the nicotiana. Nicotine in any form, from tobacco or from vape, is still the same. It goes to your brain, to the prefrontal cortex, which is your chief executive officer. It rewires your brain. It affects your higher forms of learning, your impulse control, and even your behavior. So it's not good. Quit that. And then for those who are enticed to try the vape, it is not good. I call it not harm reduction for kids who's going to use it first time, but it is harm introduction. And you know what? When harm is introduced, it is sometimes, and it is most oftentimes, hard to get out because there is this addiction that has set in, and you don't feel the effects all at once. It sets in while you are there. So it's like getting into the trap, and it's hard to get out. So health is actually the prime treasure of a person, and smoking and vaping are actually should not be part of any family, especially if there are children, because it's going to really destroy their health. When we did the nationwide awareness campaign, we saw their interest, no? So we can always advise, but they have a different language. They have a different in forms in reaching out to their teens. So they need involvement. We have experienced that last year when we have the World No Tobacco Day and we invited our teens. You see, we got fresh ideas on how to communicate. We tend to lecture. We tend to be like lolos, lolas, or titas. Yung bang nagkakaroon ng generation gap in terms of language. Now, if you teach this young, they can reach out to their young colleagues more and setting an example to their peers. So that's actually peer counseling is better than actually coming from the top. So you influence the young so they can influence more their younger colleagues around. So how can they participate in the advocacy? I think they have to reach out to us pediatricians because we have community advocacies. And this year, we're putting up a podcast involving the teens. And actually, that's actually my dream to roll this out and share it to their teens because it is getting their ideas, engaging it with us, and then, what is that? Using their language to reach to the teens to really be our young tobacco and nicotine control advocates. Our call is really to, rethink of our laws. It starts on the Clean Air Act. So that's part of it, no? So we have to be mindful of having that wonderful or most important treasure, clean air for our lungs. The Tobacco Control Act of 2003, the root of all why it's 18 years old. Please reconsider raising the age of access to both cigarettes and vape to 21 years old because it is the industry really looking after the replacement smokers and the new vapors. They know that once nicotine addiction sets in, even at the age of 18, it's really very hard to control because they don't feel the health hazards. Now, actually, let's push more for the empower the WHO FCTC in all levels from the top to the local government. We have to engage our barangays, and now that we have also the youth leaders, we have to engage them. Now, laws should be enforced and laws should really be widely disseminated by heart, hindi dapat ningas kugon. It should be through and through. Actually, maganda sana ng idea na meron kaming mga young tobacco patrol kids whom we can report kasi mas madalas nakikinig pagkabata na ang nagsasalita na ingatan niyo naman po kami, proteksyonan niyo naman po kami. And it all boils down, what is the government doing to protect us children? They know the harms. It seems that the adults who are up there making the laws, who are not really hearing the plea of the children, protect them. And tobacco control actually is number one. I'm reviewing the NCDs. We can control most of the NCDs through a very good tobacco control in the young. Obesity, kasi hindi na sila lalabas, they're more engaged in indoor activity. What's that? Hika because of the air particulate. And then even what's that? Hypertension, cardiovascular disease, because this smoking and vaping has all long-term effects on the endothelium, causing dysfunction, having increased heart diseases, stroke, and lung problems in the young. So a tough government and actually awareness of the people to participate in all of these tobacco and nicotine control programs. So to sum it up, all of these efforts, the laws, the awareness, we want you, everyone, from the government to the parents to the teachers and even the kids. It should be a safe environment for all. Safe, we define it as a smoke and aerosol-free environment. So that covers no smoking, no vaping. So let's have a safe environment for the kids, the family, community, and even our country. And that we will all remain healthy. Let's do that.